Hey everyone, today I quickly want to show you this Neewer HB80C COB light. I'm going to keep this video as quick as possible because I don't like super long reviews. Now, just to be transparent, Neewer did send me this light for free, but they're not sponsoring this video, so I can say anything that I want about this. I can literally trash this light all I want and they won't say anything. Now, I'm going to talk about this light from the perspective of an aperture and Amaran user because I've built my lighting system around Amaran and aperture lights for various reasons, but I like to add different types of lights here and there depending on my usage. So the most similar light that I have out of my personal kit is the Amaran 60XS, and I use that a lot on corporate gigs and different types of jobs. And this is the closest light to it. And so I'm gonna kind of compare this against the 60X because it's what I have, but I'm also gonna talk about what the differences are and which one you might wanna get. All right, so this Neewer light, the HB80C, is nothing new. The kind of light that it is called a COB, or a point source light, meaning it's not one of those square lights that has a bunch of small LEDs in it. It's also not a tube light, which has a bunch of LEDs in it and then diffused. No, it's just a single source of light that is strong and bright, and it has a mount called a Bowens mount where you can attach different accessories to the light, which will give you different results. Now, the reason this is great is because most light manufacturers, especially when it comes to COB lights, use the exact same mount. So if you had accessories from before, or if you still have them from other lights that are Bowens mount, most likely than not, you can fit them on this and it's gonna work just fine. For example, right now I'm using this Amaran softbox that I bought about a year ago. I use this softbox with my Amaran 60XS, and I'm using it on this light with no problems. The reason I mention this is because there's a lot of lights out there, 80 watts, 100 watts, 150 watts, especially the smaller lights that have a proprietary list of accessories that they sell on their websites. Some of these lights don't come with a Bowens mount. They come with their own proprietary mount, and then you have to get a Bowens mount adapter, which costs a little bit more money and adds more size to the light. And then on top of the adapter, you can use Bowens accessories. But it's always better to just have a native Bowens mount. Now, much like the Amaran 60X, this light is also bicolor, but it's also RGB and gives you green and magenta shift adjustments. So this light is much better when it comes to matching colors of an environment, or when it comes to just doing color work in general. However, while we're still on the topic of colors, there is one advantage to the Amaran 60XS, and that is the S version, you know, the Amaran 60XS, is updated to have a higher SSI rating in both daylight and tungsten. And what this means is it gives you a more realistic color rendition, at least on skin tones, that looks closer to what higher end lights or the sun looks like. This especially matters if, let's say for whatever reason, you have to mix in the Amaran 60XS with the new aperture lights, you know, like the 400X with the new Blair engine, which also has pretty high SSI ratings. If you care about that kind of color accuracy and you don't really need RGB, then the Amaran 60XS is hands down the better light to get. But if you need color functionality, then the 60X just doesn't do anything for you because it doesn't have any colors, not even green and magenta shift. So now the thing that makes this light special, or the thing that this light is doing that most other lights aren't doing, if not all of them, is that it has an internal battery in a COB light, and it actually lasts for quite a while. So I tested this light at 100% intensity. I think I was at around 4500 Kelvin, and the battery lasted for, I believe, an hour and 23 minutes at full intensity. So this is pretty good when it comes to a light that's this bright. Now you might ask, how bright is it? Well, actually, you would think that it's 80 watts, but that's not the case when you're using the internal battery. When using the internal battery, you're actually only getting 65 watts of power. Now there's also a mode where you can have it max out at 45 watts if you don't want the fan to work. That's only necessary for audio critical work, or if you want to preserve the battery life as much as possible. Now the only other way to power this light externally is via 100 watt PD charging, or a cable. So it actually comes with the cable, but you would just need a wall plug that supports 100 watt PD, or you would need an external battery that also supports 100 watt PD via USB-C. Now, when you go to their website, there's actually a more expensive kit that you can buy that already comes with that PD charger, but it is only a PD charger, meaning you have to connect it to a wall plug and then use the USB-C cable that it comes with. If you want to use it mobily, you're going to need some sort of external battery, like a Neewer V-mount battery or any other sort of battery that supports 100 watt PD charging. When you power it this way, that's when you'll actually get 80 watts of power instead of the 65 watts that the internal battery gives you. So this puts it more in line with my Amaran 60XS, where it's a 60 watt light, but it stays a 60 watt light even if I'm using external NPF batteries. Now, one of my pet peeves with internal batteries is that if I'm on a shoot and this battery dies, then I can't use the light anymore unless I had the PD charger with the USB-C cable, which to me just doesn't feel as good as having what the 60X has, which is just a wall plug, right? You could just connect it via a wall plug, or you can use external NPF batteries that you can have many of, and you can charge them ahead of time so that whenever the batteries die, you can just switch them out and continue shooting. So in that sense, the 60X for me is a much more secure light to use for professional work, whereas this, I'm probably going to keep it home where it's just going to be hooked up to a wall plug via USB-C, and that's going to be a peace of mind. But I don't want to have to bring V-mount batteries for this light to be able to power it, because that would kind of defeat the purpose of this light. It being so affordable and portable, I don't want to have to spend hundreds of extra dollars on V-mount batteries, which are less portable and it's going to be an added cost. Whereas for my Amaran 60X, I could just buy cheapo NPF batteries from Amazon for like a fraction of the cost, and they'll serve me well. So before buying this light, I would recommend looking into power solutions and making sure you know what you're getting into. But if you're going to be totally cool with its internal battery and that's all you're going to use, then you're set. And by the way, the 1 hour and 25 minutes of battery life that I mentioned, again, that's when it's at 100% intensity. So if you're not using it at 100% intensity, which you won't be a lot of the time, then the battery will last a lot longer. To give you an example, in my current setup right now, I'm actually using the light at 17% brightness at 5000 Kelvin. So this would probably last, I would guess, at least 4 hours at this brightness. Now granted, this is a small condo, this is a small enclosed area with white walls around me where there could be spill, and the light is really close to me. So of course I'm at only 17%. If I was in a bigger office space with more daylight coming in, then I'm probably gonna have to blast this at 80 or 100%. In that case, it probably doesn't suffice as a key light at all for any of these situations. If you're in a corporate environment shooting corporate videos, I would recommend at least a 200 watt light. So this would more serve me as a backlight or some sort of a fill light or a very small key light that I don't have the expectation of it battling daylight coming in from different sources. Another thing to mention is, of course, this has a bunch of different effects that basically every light manufacturer has. Like we're talking paparazzi, fire, police, you know, all kinds of lighting effects that you can use. All brands have this. I feel like I shouldn't have to mention this in every single video. Few comments about the body. First of all, I like the build. It feels like a sturdy, well-built light. Even though it's plastic, it doesn't feel as cheap as like my Amaran 200X. Which is kind of weird, right? Like you would think that a light this cheap with internal battery would feel a little flimsy. It doesn't. It actually feels nice in my hands. When it comes to the physical buttons and the menus, I like it. It's fine. Sometimes it doesn't feel intuitive because, you know, when you're switching through the modes, you have to flip through all of them to get to which mode you want. The dial that controls the brightness feels a little bit, you know, finicky sometimes, but it's self-explanatory. The menu is fine. It's not a huge issue. The app is pretty good. I can control it from the phone. As soon as you turn on the app and the light is on, it automatically detects it and it takes you to the page where you can control the light. That's basically how I've been using this light most of this time, especially when I'm framing a shot by myself and I have to look at the screen and the light at the same time. I'm basically using the app the whole time. Another thing is it does come with a bag, but it's a bag where like everything needs to be fit in properly to put stuff inside. So it just feels just big enough to fit everything. You have to, you know, put the light inside of the reflector and then put them in together kind of thing. So it's not a perfect bag, but at least it comes with one. Whereas something like my Amaran 60X didn't really come with anything that I would call usable. So something to keep in mind. Also be careful if you're buying this from Amazon or even their own website, there's usually a little button called coupon. Click it and it will probably save you anywhere from $20 to $60 depending on where you're buying this from and what sale is in place. But usually, or at least some of the times, the price that you see is not the final price. There's probably something that you can redeem to make it a little bit lower. As you can see with my computer here, that's not the case for all of them. So just, you know, make sure that you're looking at the post before buying it.